Check this out.
It's what the streets want to know.
Hell yeah.
That real, that raw.
The drug's so powerful, it will make you sell the clothes off your back.
It's straight drop, baby.
Yeah, baby.
From the people you want to hear it from. It's time to let the dog off the leash.
Run. Chico, run.
It's Unleashed, Reloaded.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. My name is Dogface Calderon. This is Dogface TV, live on everything. When I say everything, I'm live on everything. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Everything.
I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I'm live for you. I'm at your mama house. I'm live on everything, man. My next guest, she is one of the most sought after interviews in the country right now. Her name is Kalitha Bush, excuse me. It's a very articulate, well-spoken, well-rounded, informative young woman. She has a wealth of knowledge about things that you wouldn't think she knows anything about. One of the reasons why she is, I'm going to say, in the whole land, in the land of urban street shit, in the land of gangster shit, in the land of the culture, of Black culture, this young woman is one of the most sought after interviews. Everybody's calling her. Everybody wants to talk, especially now that we have a situation going on with Tammy Collins, Demetrius Flannery, aka Big Meech, and Dion Cuffy Gatlin. That is the hottest subject of the land, in part because of what's going on between 50 Cent and Big Meech, and then Rick Ross, and then you throw Lil Meech into the pot as well, and you shake it all up, and you come out with a lot of shit. Miss Bush has a perspective that you can only get from being there, being a part of it. She has an understanding that comes from living it, not just talking about it, not just hearing about it. One of the hottest subjects in the land now is third-party cooperation, because in the world of on the federal criminal justice landscape, we know about a 5K1. That is when you offer, if you catch a Fed case, and when you offer the government some assistance leading to some an arrest or a conviction or some actionable information, prior to getting sentenced, that cooperation is called a 5K1. Post-conviction, if you turn around and you give a motherfucker some juicy shit about trying to get a motherfucker booked, right? When you cooperate after post-sentencing, they call that a Rule 35B. So prior to getting convicted, it's a 5K1. After you get convicted, they give you another opportunity to tell on some shit. That's called a Rule 35B. We know very little about what third-party cooperation is. Some people said there's no such thing as third-party cooperation. The feds don't play games like that. The federal government don't do no off-the-record, clandestine snitch agreement type shit. The feds don't do that. Dogface, you are lying to the people. They don't do no shit like that. It's got to be by the book. It's got to be on the law. If it's not on the federal, if it's not on it, no, you can't do that. You're lying, dog. Miss Kalitha Bush has something to say about all of that. Welcome to the show, Miss Bush.
Thank you.
Now, Miss Bush, you got a tan. Where I'm from, it's cold as a motherfucker. Why you got a tan right now?
It's Texas. We don't get that much. We don't get that much cold weather like y'all get probably where you're at up in the Midwest. It's basically warm year round out here. So I've been enjoying the little cool cold fronts that we've been having coming in and out for the last 2 weeks, but that's about to end. So
You know, you just brag, don't you? You know, we don't play that. We in Detroit right now. You just brag and just talk about how warm and how nice. We don't play no shit like that. Miss Bush, welcome to the YouTube Streets. The YouTube Streets is a collection of YouTubers who are all coming together for the purpose of commentating on, pontificating about all the things that affect Black people as a whole across the country, right? So I want to welcome you on behalf of the entire YouTube Streets block. We have a couple of members who are missing. But this information will be disseminated to them as well. Can you tell? So first of all, one of the hottest subjects in land is third-party cooperation, and we have people from different walks of life and from different, who have different experiences with the criminal justice system. You have some people who have said that there's no such thing as third-party cooperation. What say you about people who say there's no such thing about that as that?
Well, I tell you that, I would basically tell them that they need to look a little farther to the people who've actually been through and experienced it, because I ended up in federal prison because I helped my ex run a third-party cooperation firm here in Texas. And I ended up with an almost 10-year prison sentence because of that. And it's something that's very lucrative. It's something that, I've had interviews where somebody asked me, well, how many calls were you getting a day? And I can basically tell you at least 200 phone calls every day from facilities around the United States. Some people names that I don't even want to discuss that are like so high up the chain when it comes to being drug lords and people like that want to get out of prison, and they're willing to spend however much amount of money necessary to become free again. So it is absolutely something that happens. The government does it in many different ways. Somebody said, well, why, when somebody does it, their name is going to be in the paperwork? Not necessarily, and not all the time. I guess it's up to the United States government's discretion of how they're going to put that information out there, or if they're going to put that information out there at all. Because my ex, as I spoke to you about this before we started recording, was an informant for the United States government for some time. And he ended up using the information that he got from being an informant to launch this third-party cooperation firm, which landed him a 20-year prison sentence, and me caught in the middle of it, a nearly 10-year sentence as well.
Can you tell us, you guys started a third-party cooperation company?
Well, he actually had it before I knew anything about it.
Right.
And pulled me in the middle of it.
Okay.
And so being pulled in the middle of it, at first it was just, I need you to answer these phone calls, take the messages, and relay messages. But
Right.
then as a few years passed, I was actually going out there, actually meeting with people's families who were incarcerated, who wanted to use the service in order to get them Rule 35B motion filed through the court so that they can get their sentence reduced for cooperating with the government. But it wasn't just any kind of give information situation. We actually had informants working for us. Like, he had a lot of friends that he had gotten signed up as informants, and he had some friends that were already informants who knew of other informants who can do the work.
So, I want you to know that this story is a chilling story, and if you see a look of incredulousness on my face, it is not because I'm not understanding what you're saying. It is because it's scary.
It is.
When you as you tell this story, you haven't even gotten to the heart and the meat and potatoes of it. But as you tell this story, it ain't safe outside. That's the only thing I'm thinking.
But nobody, because the same firm that he launched, it was a way that we ended up being caught up with the United States government, because somebody that was very close to him had gotten in some trouble, and the Fed ended up investigating him. And this person walked from this whole situation. It was the closest person to him. So,
Ms. Bush, can you explain to us how third-party cooperation works? So is it that you guys found informants to jump on people's cases? Or, so I heard you say, hey, well, people who are incarcerated, they're looking for a way to get out. So is it that Man, can you just tell us?
So technically, in the rule book of doing third-party cooperation, the government normally will not work with you if it's not somebody that is a informant. And from my understanding, I've never been an informant, but I've talked to multiple informants. I've talked to United States attorneys, and I've talked to attorneys on the behalf of clients that we had. And so informants don't go by names. They have numbers from what they told me. The government pull their files by the numbers if they've done work in different states or whatever, and they want to go into another state and do work. They're going to pull this informant's file by number and see if they're credible to do the work in that jurisdiction. If for any reason they're blackballed, which happened to one of our informants, where the government says, no, we're not working with you anymore, we're not doing anything with you, then no, they'll say no. Well, basically, the rule is the person is supposed to be related to you. The government wants the person to be related to you when you're going to do when there's work that's supposed to be done on your behalf. And so in a lot of cases, if the person is not related to you, it has to be an informant. Somebody that's already known, somebody that has done this type of work before.
That's wild.
No, I don't want to be unprofessional, but god damn. So you guys had a company where you were brokers of rats and snitches. And y'all used the rats and snitches to help people who were solid up until. So I'm in prison. I'm doing 25 years. I got money in the street. I'm trying to get some time cuts to get myself home faster. I could have hired your firm to get somebody to give me information so I can turn that information over to the federal government.
And a lot of times this is what happened. I've spoken to, like I said, United States attorneys and attorneys before. And sometimes the person has tried to cooperate before, but was denied because it is somebody that the government wants and they don't want to give information on this particular person. And they'll sit in prison for some years and that person is still on the streets. And then they might decide one day that I'm ready to do the work. I mean, I'm ready to give up that information, because there was this case where there was a big time drug lord in another state. And the person that we were hired to do the work on behalf, the attorney said, well, I've tried everything and they're not budging. But when I spoke to the United States attorney, and they said, well, tell him the only way that we will allow for you to send informants down here to do work on his behalf is if he give us the name that he knows that we want and the information. And at this time, this person had been incarcerated for like 10 years. They was more than willing to give up that information. They gave me a name. I contacted the United States attorney back. They said, that's what we want. That's who we want. Yes, send your people up here. And so that's how it works for a lot of people. They'll sit in prison for some time and not want to tell on a friend. But then after some time, they'll feel like, okay, well, I'm going to tell on a friend now.
So informants was just sitting around waiting on y'all call, just waiting on the mission.
Oh, they actually out doing work all the time. Like
gathering intel.
Out doing work. As soon as they have a chance where they can make themselves available to do work, then they're more than happy to do the work.
Hey, Ms. Bush, did you hear what you just said?
I'm telling you, like, I didn't believe
they don't stop working.
I was like I was like the person that was communicating with these people, like talking to them, and they're telling me these things, and I'm having conversations with them, and I was shocked too at first. I was like, wow. And it's a lot of females that do this type of work because it's easier for females to infiltrate a lot of organizations, especially when it's drug organizations.
I had all kind of shit to ask you before we start this shit, but I don't So at the height of the firm that you were, he was your husband, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how many informants did you guys have on the rolls?
So he had 5 of his friends signed up as informants, and then it was 2 females that he met through a friend that was an informant. And these girls were like butter to United States government ears once they pulled their names. Like, they wanted these girls coming to do work. And they told me personally themselves that they worked all around the United States. And I ended up being able to communicate with their boss, who was a DEA agent. And so I know in our case, when I was questioned about all this stuff and I'm basically telling them this, it was just so odd to me. I was like, in the government now plays just so dumb all of a sudden. When they have somebody that they actually really want, they don't care what you're saying. They'll listen, but they basically do not care. If you're not willing to give us some more information, then we don't care what you're saying.
So I want to ask you some questions about just the operational side of this business.
Okay.
So you guys provided people who were willing to, were you just, the people who you guys employed to so did y'all have a treasure trove or a treasure chest of information ready to be used that anybody could have used to help their case?
So let me tell you how
it was customized to the person.
So yes, so the way it goes is either they had information and it was people giving up murders and things that you wouldn't even think they would be giving up. They was giving up whatever they wanted out. And so even though you give out this information, people don't understand that the government still has the right to say, no, you know, we weren't able to prove that, or the information wasn't valid, or something in it. You did something that you wasn't supposed to do. So because of that, no, we're not accepting it at this point. It's like all kind of little things that they do, the United States government, when it comes to third-party cooperation. And so, like I told you, I would be in contact with attorneys. I've talked to multiple United States attorneys, and I've talked to DEA agents in the course of doing this work that I was doing with my ex. And so a lot of times the person themselves who are incarcerated have the information and they want to give it. And sometimes you might get people who don't have information. And that's where you would need like these informants to be able to go and do work with the United States government on whatever cases they may have. But I will basically tell you that nobody is safe. I mean, from just the years that I was involved in it, I could not believe it. I could not believe that people who were top of the tier drug lords were sitting in prisons across this United States. Matter of the United States took them from another country and brought them here or whatever. They wanted out, and they were willing to set up minions and whoever to get out. They might not want to give you like the biggest names, but they want to. It was like a lot that went into it.
So did you have it? Did you guys work for any cartel members?
I wouldn't say cartel members, but people on the other side, it possibly could have been connected, but people on the other side that from not the Mexico side, but from across the waters.
Right.
You know, people from across the waters, Colombians, Cubans, people like that actually really own some shit that the government took and seized and brought them here because they were sending their product into the United States. And so people want out. Like, I mean, I don't care how small you are, how big you are. There are people, it was a whole facility at one time calling, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, nobody has any shame in their game anymore. They'll call and say such and such and such gonna be calling, their family's gonna be calling. Literally of like 20, 30 people all in one dorm, all making phone calls at the same time like it was nothing.
So what facility was that?
I definitely
The whole car.
Hey, look, this was in Florida. So Florida, I mean, there's a lot of people in Florida that's trying to tell on people like I never seen before. But I mean, Texas is not excluded, but Florida was like one of those states where you are like, wow, like nobody even cares.
I'm never at a loss for words ever. I want you to know I'm never at a loss of word. You telling me it was a whole facility? They was
Yeah, like every single person almost is trying to get out of there. So I don't know if the facility was just that bad or people just didn't care anymore and they just said, F this, I want to go home or what it may be. But everybody has some type of information that they can dig up or remember on somebody at some point that they're trying to tell. And people are sitting around here living their lives and don't even know that somebody's trying to write affidavits on them. So I tell people right now, I don't care if you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing and you're doing it with somebody, just be careful, because if you go down and you don't know how, it could have been your friend. Your friend could have got in some trouble and turned you in, and you see them still walking, but then they come to take you away. It happens all the time.
These niggas whole possums.
No, listen, right? I'm never at a loss for words, right? But see, what you are telling me, what you are exposing in this interview, you're exposing the underbelly of what's really going on in the streets. So what you should be teaching classes in the inner city to young black men and women, because the information
Not to get caught up, because I've had people reach out to me and basically tell me, I've listened to your whole story, part 1 to 100 on my series, and they said I walked away from relationship because I was not ready for what happened in your situation to be my situation. And I was like, yeah, sometimes you can listen to somebody else's story, and that could be just that push you need to make you come outside the door, because I was incarcerated with a lot of people from different walks of life. And there was a lot of females sitting in prison doing long prison stints because of a man. And some of these women were in prison, and this man was out there walking around living his life with the next female because he put the drugs on her, one scenario, or he told her to take that case, the other scenario. So, basically, either way it goes, you're not safe. There are men that want to do the crime but don't want to do the time, period.
Oh, it's a bunch of bitch ass niggas. Ain't no bitch ass nigga like a bitch ass nigga. Ain't no bitch ass nigga like a bitch ass nigga. We know that.
I wish I could have learned, early on in my life, but I didn't. It took me a long time to learn that lesson.
Miss Bush, how did you meet your husband initially?
So, I talked about it in my series, but I'll go ahead and tell you. So I was friends with one of his relatives through my mom. They used to gamble together. And I was on my way to one of my cousin's house one day, which was down the street from where I lived at. And I stopped to his relative house, who was out in the front yard, and we were just talking for a few minutes. And then he just came out the house and started talking to me, asking me for my information, asked me for my phone number. And I was like, well, I just got a home phone. Because this was way back in 1996. I was 16 years old. And so he was young, fly, to my eye. I was a more sheltered girl, grew up not exposed to this type of stuff. And so I was at all with him. And so everything just pretty much went from there. I didn't know that he was a drug dealer. He told me after we were seeing each other for a while, hey, this is what I do for a living. He showed me a whole bunch of drugs one day, and he told me drugs are bad for you. Don't ever let anybody offer that to you. And that was that. And pretty much some time passed. I was pregnant for him. I had his child, and we ended up living together after that. And the rest of it is a whole book.
Gotcha. I understand. Did people in your family have any idea what you were doing and what you guys were doing? Did they know that you guys had a company like that?
Nobody in my family knew anything about it at all. And when they found out about it, they was completely shocked. And they didn't find out about it until I was arrested.
Right.
And I was arrested. His family didn't know anything about it either. Everybody was like completely shocked. But the ignorance of the common person who didn't know what third party cooperation was, they're thinking nothing of this. Like, I can talk about third party cooperation to my family right now, and some of them would say, like, what is that? And I've been talking about it to you for a long time. Like, how do you forget? But I mean, that's just how it is. When people are not living on that scale, then they don't think about that type of stuff. But I mean, it should be something that is known and, like you say, taught in the books, because it is something that goes on all the time.
So I have a question for you. So the federal government frowned upon the business that your husband created and that you helped him eventually manage, right?
Yes.
So my question to you
why is because they said we don't even pay people to do this type of work. So how they said, again, he was a mastermind. He thought that he was smarter than everybody else, when he was actually using, I guess, what he learned from working with them. And in my series, I talk about all that stuff, him working with the feds on a 5K1. And the family member that I'm telling you, how I met him, is one of the people that he ended up working undercover to get.
Your family member?
No, it was his family member, the one that how I met him when I
started. Okay.
Yeah, his family member was like big in the game back then, and actually put him in the game. And so, you know, from there, he started doing his own thing. He got out there big. Everybody knew him. People would tell me that's what he was doing, but he had kind of like told me after a while, hey, this is what you keep asking me what I do for a living. This is what I do for a living. And he basically took me over to his mom's house, opened up a washing machine and dryer, put the garbage sack out, and showed me a whole bunch of cookies back then, which I didn't know what that was. He just said cookies, and it was these circular looking things. And he was telling me, hey, this is what I do for a living.
So what were you? What was he charged with when everything came crashing down?
So it was just like collar crime, a money crime.
Oh, so it was like money laundering. Was it? What was it?
Wire fraud.
Wire fraud. So, but there ain't no fraud because y'all giving niggas real shit. It wasn't no fraud in it because y'all. It ain't like you want a rat. We gonna give you something to tell on to help say to get you some time reduction.
Gotcha. So basically, what it came down to on the case was, for number one, you're not supposed to be. They say that you're not supposed to take money to do this type of stuff. And I remember back at that time, he was talking to some other consultants where they had, like, you could have did a Google search on this and it would pop up on your Google search. Now I tried to do a Google search on it and it's not popping up on my Google search. Like, it was multiple different firms that were specializing in third-party cooperation, not just in the state of Texas, in multiple different states. But now when I do that search, I don't see that there.
When I first became aware of you, I did a search about different companies and firms that engaged in this kind of thing. And all I found was lawyers who had been tried and convicted for the same thing you guys were doing.
Yeah, some were lawyers now. I mean, some of them that he was talking to were lawyers, and the only thing was they were basically saying that they didn't have the informants to do the work.
There were, I think, 4 or 5 lawyers in Florida who got indicted for the same thing, where they were providing informants to jump on people's cases, and they were charging anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000, depending on how juicy or actionable the information was. Did you guys have different prices for different people?
So we charge like a retainer fee to most people. Just the retainer fee was just to look at the case, just to see if, because sometimes there's a clause in your case that says you can have third-party cooperation, because it was also in my case before I was sentenced. Like when they did the PSR report and everything, and I also sit down with the government and did a practice what's called the Queen for a Day. And so that's when you go in and you sit down with your prosecutors, United States government. And so my case wasn't just in Texas. My case was expanded across a few jurisdictions. So I was in a meeting with my very prominent attorney at this time who knew all her shit. And we're sitting there and there's people that mean business sitting at this big table, which were United States attorneys and assistant United States attorneys. And on the TV screens were the same people from different jurisdictions as far as Texas, Florida, and New York. And I went in as doing a practice which is called a queen for a day, which is when you're able to go in and talk to the United States government. And anything that you say that even implicates you and anything cannot be used against you. But I highly believe that's what happened in my case. But long story short, the government, after I talked to them, they're asking me all these questions, and I made it my purpose and my business to go after one person that I knew was the person that was on our case. Giving all the information that I could on this person who had threw me under the bus some type of way and was walking around smiling and laughing about it.
They were free or they were locked up too?
I'm talking about he was free, never locked up, should have been in prison. And even my attorney had told me, so I knew it was real when I'm going to Florida to meet with my attorney, and then she slapped some papers in front of me saying, so if you contact, and I don't even have to say the name, you know who it is. If you contact this person in any type of way, if you threaten this person of anything like this, you're going to be getting a new charge of obstruction of justice, and you can face an additional 7 years, I think, imprisonment after you finish serving whatever time they're going to give you. And so I'm looking like, what? Like, how is this even fair? Like, this person is walking around free, acting like they don't know what's going on. The person broke in my house while I was in jail waiting for a bond hearing, tried to rob me, and the government is all for this person because this person is working with them. So nothing that I said in that meeting mattered. They emailed my attorney back so fast and told her, Ms. Bush is so not forthcoming with information that we're going to move forward with the max amount of sentence that we can get her by law. And at that time, I was looking at 40 years imprisonment. I was looking at 40 years imprisonment from what they were telling me, from the information they had given to my attorney. And I was pissed off because I was like, how does this even happen? But even being on that side, it happened to me. And so eventually I pleaded to one count of wire fraud in Texas and Florida, with New York drafting their case into the Florida case. And by PSR as being a first-time nonviolent offender, I had no criminal history whatsoever. The judge gave me a top of the guideline sentence, which was 96 months, 8 years.
96 months and 8 years. Did you guys ever work hand in hand with any law firms, or was it just like a unique situation within and of itself?
It was just a unique situation. Like, so my ex was very, very, like, the feds would say how sophisticated he was. They would say how smart he was, how he thought he was smarter than everybody else. And honestly, he did think that he was smarter than everybody else. He was very, very, very smart. And so, he was already doing this stuff. He pulled me in to this situation. And I'm thinking that this is very much so legit, that this is, a business that you can have. Like, never looking into if you can go to prison for anything like this. I never thought about that until I was arrested one day. But I knew that before I was arrested, I knew that something was going to happen. Because as I talk about it in my story, it was times when people were calling me back and saying, well, we talked to the agents and they said they talked to the informants and they came and they never came back. And like, these are people that's paid you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he had somebody that paid him over $2 million. And so these people are now calling saying somebody like, well, we talked to the agents and the person they came out there, they haven't came back, they're not doing the work, we need them back out there. And so it was so many things going on with these informants, taking money, saying they were going to do work sometimes, not going back to complete work. that everything ended up just crashing down at one time. And he didn't tell me a lot of things, but he sent somebody that he was really, really close to that was an informant that had done work with him before over to the eastern region of Texas to go and talk to the feds about doing some work on a case that needed to be completed. And that person was told on that day, hey, get out of our office. Don't come back. We know what you're doing. We know y'all accepting all these large amounts of money, and basically told him that he was blackballed, he could not do any more work. And so he had, unbeknownst to me, told this to my ex, who had not told me that information.
Mm-hmm. Were there ever any situations where you guys said, nah, we ain't fucking with that. That might be too convoluted. Were there any situations where they were extreme?
It was some extreme situations. It was situations where people were calling me on the outside on burner phones, telling me, hey, I need you to fly out here and come and meet with me in person, meet me on my yacht so that I can talk to you the way that I want to talk to you and not over the phone. And at the same time, they were setting up large operations, telling me basically, you know, we're going to have this ship come through the water with all of this on there and with the people on it. After y'all do y'all thing, what some people didn't understand, it was like, after we do our thing and that happens, will he be set free immediately? Like, no. Like, it's a lot of stuff that actually goes into this. And some people did not understand that. They thought if it's this big, it's no way that this person is not going to walk out of there, which is absolutely not the case. Like, motions have to be filed. It's so much stuff that goes into that.
Were there any people in law enforcement that you guys are working hand in hand with to kind of like help move y'all cases forward faster?
No,
or y'all had to operate. Y'all had to kind of like.
Person I told you that I was in contact with a lot was a DEA agent who used to work in the eastern region, who had transferred to the Mississippi region, and the girls that were working for us was actually his informants.
Mm-hmm.
So he was willing to do whatever it took on that extreme case that this boat is supposed to come through with all these kilos over into the Florida water. Mm-hmm. He was trying to take that boat and shift it way over here going towards the Mississippi River.
Right.
And was like, I don't know how that's going to possibly work because, you know, agents are greedy for cases. And so he was basically saying, like, that's my girls and I want the credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
But that actually that did not happen. Like, that whole situation ended up not happening.
Have you ever heard of the term, that's a cold game?
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. So the hot topic right now, it is third-party cooperation with. Have you studied or have you put your eyes on the situation between Tammy Collins and Big Meech and this whole Cuffy thing?
So I mean, people have asked me questions about it, like just hit me up saying, hey, what do you think about it? This and that. And I pretty much heard a guy talking about, you know, that Meech was involved in this stuff. And, you know, I seen another YouTube with the first lady, Miss Welch from BMF, kind of speaking about this lady and this cooperation stuff. And her interview was, I want to say 2 years ago when she was talking about this.
Yeah, Tonisha. Yeah.
And so I basically haven't like just looked into it, but just from somebody saying that, my conclusion would be yes, that I think that he most likely probably did, because start looking back in history at a lot of drug lords, and a lot of people call them legends. They were part of snitching, regardless of how you look at it. So I would basically think that, you know, if it's being said that, why else would you be in communication with somebody that's known as a known informant, other than some type of help that you might be acquiring from this person? Because I don't see any other reason that, you know, that situation should even, that relationship should have even just aroused in any kind of way.
Got you.
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead, have at it, brother.
Listen, it sounds to me, I just want to know, am I hearing you right? When you were saying how y'all was making money, was y'all making money off the people that was ratting? They was also paying y'all for they can rat to get their people out?
Yes, so that's basically how it went.
Man.
Hey, they were paying fees and they were paying like big fees for this type of work.
For them to tell.
Yeah, for them to be able to give this information to you and for you to be able to get somebody to do the work for them. And it was always told these people, like, this is not 100% guaranteed. Like, there were cases that, yes, it was guaranteed because prosecutors agreed to it, but there were cases where some people's stuff is just so jacked up that nobody even want to talk to them. Like, we don't even want to hear what you got to say. You right where you at and you belong there.
Man, that was vicious there. These people, they not only go rat on you, they gonna put up money to make shows.
Man,
That's
what?
wild. I was just making sure I understood it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, because basically that's how it go, because the United States government was saying, well, we don't pay anybody for this type of work. But I was so confused because I was like, well, I'm talking to these informants and I've talked to their boss, and this is a whole DEA agent telling me that they get paid for this. So somebody is lying. But like I said, it's really not a book we can agree on that they go by or whatever. It's pretty much no rules when you're dealing with the United States government, as I personally learned myself.
That's crazy. You hear that, dog face? They was paying to rat. Did you hear that, dog face?
Oh yeah, I heard exactly what you said. So you had multiple. It wasn't just so you guys on a payroll who would go out and acquire knowledge that y'all can then turn around and use to help other people, client. So y'all did stockpile information to be used later?
Yeah. So, well, basically, they would give the information. The people who wanted the work, they had the information. They would give you the information.
Okay.
So somebody calling you is because they want to tell on somebody.
So without saying any names, was there ever anybody in the entertainment business who tried to convince who you guys work hand in hand with?
No, nobody in the entertainment business.
No athletes or nothing like that?
No.
It was all street shit.
So basically, it was family members. And a lot of these family members were people that had money, or if they didn't have money, they were going to take out loans and whatever to be able to pay for their family member, which is most likely their son who was incarcerated, telling them that they need to get out of here and that this is the only way I can get out of here is if I work with the government.
Gotcha. So it was family and friends of people who were incarcerated.
Yes. Or sometimes you had those inmates that actually have the money on their books, and they will write you a check and send it to you. So in the feds, you can do that. You can write a check off of your account and send it.
Gotcha. When did you guys see the walls closing in on y'all, or did it just come out? Did y'all indictment just come out the clear blue sky?
It didn't. Like I told you before, I felt like something was going to end up happening with it because it was people calling on the phone all of a sudden, like, hey, so what's going on with my case? I paid this money. I talked to the agents. They're saying they showed up out there. They haven't come back. It was starting to be like a few phone calls coming in. And of course, you had somebody that had paid a lot of money whose son couldn't get work, and they was like losing their mind calling whoever they could call. And so unbeknownst to me, sometime before I was ever even involved in any of this, my ex was doing this with some of the informants, and somebody went down and said, hey, I gave him all this money and my son can't get help now. And the feds laughed the person out the building and basically told them that, well, that's what you get. Why would you pay somebody money for that? Like, we don't charge people for that type of work.
Yeah, so that's the crazy thing. Hey, you're working on some really, really clandestine shit with for the purposes of getting your son or daughter or whoever out of prison. It ain't how you gonna go tell on a motherfucker who trying to hire motherfuckers to tell on motherfuckers to help your son. That's some backward ass dumb shit.
That's nasty work.
No, what actually happened later on was even crazier, because that same person that they laughed out 8 years before, all of a sudden, once we were indicted, they threw that case in there too. And so regardless of if I knew anything about some of these cases or not, I was part of that conspiracy. So ultimately, I went down for the whole account of everything too. Like, they don't care when it's a conspiracy. Like, you'll hear people say, well, I don't know this person, I didn't know that person. I don't have any kind of communication with any of these people, but it doesn't matter. It's a conspiracy. So in a conspiracy, it's everybody. If your name is called, if your name is put out there in any kind of way, whether it's true or not, if somebody's saying it or two people saying it, there you go.
Have you written a book about any of this? Do you have a book in plan?
I have not written a book about it. I know people ask me about it, but I haven't. Basically, I'm working on my story of, our relationship. And if you look at my series, it's like 100-point series on TikTok and also on YouTube, where I'm detailing, everything in my life, which is layers of things. Like, I can write book after book after book, honestly. But right now I'm trying to stick to my story.
Okay, I got you. So you mentioned your series earlier about where can your series be watched, be listened to? Where can we go find your content? So
you can look me up on TikTok at Kalitha Bush 1. It's at Kalitha Bush with the number 1. My whole series is there. I have a few series on there right now. And the series that if they want to look at Married to an FBI Informant, that series is a 100-part series. I think it takes, if you listen to the whole series, people told me it takes like a whole day. If you just start early in the morning and to the next morning, it's like a whole day. So it took me like 3-4 months to record that whole entire series.
Okay, so it's on TikTok is at Kalitha Bush 1, the number 1, or the
and also on YouTube, also here on YouTube at Kalitha Bush 1980.
Okay, and on YouTube. YouTube is Kalisha Bush 80.
Kalitha Bush 80, 1980.
1980. All right. Hey, listen, Miss Bush, it was a pleasure and honor. Do you have any plans on starting this up again? Yes, please. No, not this bullshit. So listen, man.
Hell nah.
Nah, hell no. I got you. So listen, so I had to, I'm a funny motherfucker when I want to be, Miss Bush. You know how we do. So listen, what are your plans now? How long have you been home?
So I've been home for 2 years now.
Okay.
Years now. I'm actually trying to get into starting my own organization with bill writing laws for federal and state inmates who are incarcerated. I want to try to put a dent in some of the things, because we know that people do commit. There's a lot of people incarcerated for committing crimes in their youth, and still incarcerated with life sentences. And I do believe that people do grow out of crime. I have friends who grew out of crime after doing 20 and 30 years. So I do know in some instances that, yes, there are some good people who made a mistake when they were young, who are incarcerated, that I do feel like need to come home. There are people that deserve compassionate releases that should come home. And I want to work with my state legislators to be able to at least try to visit that arena.
So, any questions, Public Figure Boogie, Juice, Uncle Juice? Any questions here?
No, that was.
No, I ain't got no questions.
We fucked up. Hey, Kalitha, we fucked up over here.
Man, she messed me up with that.
No, for real, like genuinely, because neither one of us are known for. Look at Boogie's face right now. Boogie's above you. You see how stupid Boogie looking right now? Boogie like.
Yeah, like I can't trust nobody.
Man, nigga scratch back there.
I ain't fucking with nobody.
Listen, no one got me. That's why I had to ask Dolphin. Let me just ask this before I let her get away. They paying to rat.
Yeah,
that's out cold. You gonna be dishonorable and you gonna pay to do it.
Yeah.
So what this does is, because the hot topic is third party cooperation because of what we are seeing with the Tammy Collins and the Big Meech and the Cuffy thing, right? So for all of you people who are saying or who have said or who are under the impression, if you think that this stops when Miss Bush and her ex-husband got indicted, if you think that these plays are not being ran right now, it's too much money involved with this for it to have stopped when Miss Bush and her ex-husband were incarcerated for it. This shit ain't never gonna stop because really all you gotta do is they was running man, go ahead out. Hey, Miss Bush, I had somebody.
It's gonna be somebody somewhere willing to take that chance.
It absolutely
and
is.
not in hopes that nobody find out that they did that.
Yes.
That's all I'm gonna say about that.
First of all, Miss Bush, motherfuckers just be telling.
Yeah, they got some people that just like they're like, even in my situation, like person lived in our house, slept in our kids' beds, ate at our table with us sometimes, was really good friends with my ex for years, and was the person that was working with the feds. So you just never know. It could be, I wouldn't put it past my mama, daddy, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, cousin. Let's just say that, because nobody is really to be trusted when it comes to your freedom and for theirs also, because some people don't want to go to prison.
Hey, you see how stupid we looking right now? Watch this. Look at our reaction. Look, just Juice right here. Come on, let's just look at Boogie like, and it's me.
I mean,
this shit got me fucked up.
Yeah, it got me. I don't know what to say about
like
that.
You could run down third party stories all we want, but when you got somebody who was actually running an organization of third party snitching,
yeah,
and she letting you know.
Oh, sadly, that'll be me. I was part of that trend at the time.
Okay, well,
and that stop with me, like you said. I'm pretty sure that it's a lot of people out there who are willing to test the waters, as well as people who are on the inside that's willing to use whoever they can. Because even in my situation, in my story, if you listen to the whole thing, I talk about how my ex, even after we were incarcerated and I made bond, he never got a bond, and I was able to go back home. The first phone call he got with me and him had, he was asking me to please contact the federal agents and work with them on his behalf. He said, everybody knows you. Like, basically, he was a big time, he was a household name. And so everybody in Houston, everybody just knew this guy. So he was like, I can give you the information. And I cut him off so fast. I cut him like a sword. Like, I can't believe that you would try to jeopardize I'm already in some shit because of you. While he's telling me, oh, don't worry about nothing. They don't have anything on you. Telling me, I just need you to do this for me. So still, he was still willing to risk me some more so that he wouldn't have to go to prison.
He ain't kidding nothing about you.
That was the part that did it for me right then, that I really realized it should have been before that, but that was just like the end of everything right there.
Most niggas ain't shit.
Yeah.
All niggas. Don't put it on all niggas. Most niggas ain't shit.
Hey, Miss Bush, listen, listen. If you wrote a book, I think, listen, your book would be on the New York Times bestseller list. And as far as I think you should think about podcasting as well.
Yeah, so I've had some offers for some podcasts. I just my life ain't all the way together yet. But it is definitely something that I do want to look into doing, because I know so many people. Like Miss Welch, I was telling her recently about a really good friend of mine who I met while I was incarcerated. I have so many friends who could tell stories, not that they were involved like I was talking to the people receiving payments, but guys who basically threw their lives away so that they wouldn't have to go to prison, because they basically turned fed on the person that they was living with that was in the same field that they was in. Like, it's some crazy stuff out there. And I want to be able to do like a podcast, and I want to cater to like women being able to tell that story about how, you know, my ex, whoever, you know, I ended up being incarcerated behind them because.
Hey, listen, Ms. Bush, I want to thank you for coming on our show and giving us some game and clarifying what is considered to be one of the biggest mysteries in the Fed game right now, because we had so many people who were saying that this does not exist. It doesn't happen like this. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. My last question is that were there any jurisdictions that you guys wanted to work in, like any federal jurisdictions that wouldn't accept, or that you guys couldn't work with in terms of providing actionable? Were there any? Because some people are saying that there's certain federal jurisdictions that don't allow third party cooperation, or doesn't allow information to come in.
I would tell you right now, I absolutely don't believe that, because there is no federal agency that is able to probably even keep their jobs without being able to go out and arrest somebody for a crime that they're currently committing or have committed that hasn't been solved. So I would absolutely say I don't believe that, because these federal agents are hungry for arrest, and they want to be able to have their name up there so they can climb in the ranks and be able to say, I did this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So I doubt very seriously that there's an agency within the federal government that would say, no, we don't do that over here at this office. Don't make sense.
Don't make no sense, because what we do know for a fact is 90% of the crimes that get solved, whether it's on the federal or state level, they're solved at the help or cooperation of somebody, of an informant, of a snitch. Come on now.
Yes.
Anybody who don't believe that is fucking delusional as a motherfucker.
Yes. Some people are delusional because maybe you got to think about, like, what have they done before?
Hold on. Oh yeah, niggas, and listen, all this acting like you don't know it exists, it ain't because you don't believe it exists, nigga.
It's
because you niggas done did it, and y'all try to act like y'all don't understand what the fuck going on. I know what some of that shit going on.
They got away with it all these years, and they scared that somebody.
Oh, can I ask you one more thing? What about the names being in the paperwork?
So, like I said before, that absolutely could be true. The name could be in there, and it can also not. It depends on the government. The government, like, even in my situation, that person's name was not in my paperwork. That person was the what they considered was a cooperating witness, basically a snitch. And even my attorney said, I don't even have to say the name. You know exactly who it is, because I had already told her what I thought about the situation. I'm like, everybody's in jail. Everybody's in jail, and this person is not. How is that even possible? And she said, And even to the end, she said, the government, because they want to find somebody to blame and don't want to put the persons more so responsible and hold them accountable, that is looking like they're going to come down on you. It's coming down on you in the end. And that's basically how I felt. I felt like, you know, the government was coming down on me only because of my affiliation with him. Because like they told me, they say, well, if you didn't know, you should have known.
If you didn't know, you should have known.
If you didn't know that this was illegal, you should have known. Like, basically, at the end of the day, we don't care what you're saying. At the end of the day, we got the person that we want. And even on sentencing day in court, I remember his attorney, my ex-attorney, standing up there, and I was like, what the hell? He stood up there in court proudly and said they wanted him to get a lesser end of a sentence. Like, could y'all come down on the sentence some on him, because he's going to do so much good work in this jurisdiction like he did in Texas. And I was just like, what the heck is going on around here? Y'all put him in prison for 20 years, and now y'all still willing to work with him.
They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck.
It was crazy. Like, I just couldn't believe it.
They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. So listen, welcome home.
Thank you.
Do good work. Do good work. Not this work.
Absolutely not. I would never have been involved in anything like that.
but your experience puts you in a unique position to be able to help so many people from the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm just be all jokes aside. Your experience is an experience that you're in the 1 percentile of people who understands that this does happen and understands all the intricate components of how it happens. So you gave me so much insight. You gave the world so much insight about what's going on here, man. I hope that everybody who tuned in or people who will see this later will take from this. And your social media is what? Tell us what your social media is.
So I'm on Facebook, Kalitha Bush, Instagram, same thing, Kalitha Bush, TikTok at Kalitha Bush 1, YouTube, Kalitha Bush 1980. So you can basically just put my name in there. You should be able to find me.
It's gonna pop up. I want to thank you for joining us. The YouTube streets, thank you. Dogface TV, thank you. On behalf of my partners, public figure Boogie TV, Uncle the Beat Factory, and for Detroit Gossip couldn't be here, but that's our player partner and Henny Says Reviews. Thank you. I appreciate you. I look forward to speaking to you again. Salute. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Salute. Thank you, sister, and welcome home.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I have so many.
We look forward to all working.
No more great sweats.
And then listen, and you can come back anytime you want to. Listen, you can use this platform is your platform to use. Anytime you want to communicate something to the world, all you gotta do is come on the YouTube streets, and we're gonna put you out there. You can do talk your shit.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I hope we can do this again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.